Welcome again to At the Forefront. I've got another fantastic person to introduce you to today. Abdirahman Ahmed, it's really lovely to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining me. Abdirahman is the founder of Urban Rise. This is an amazing social enterprise that is on a mission to give young people the financial skills they need to thrive. You are going to be slightly appalled, but possibly not surprised by some of his stories that he's going to tell about the lack of financial education there is in our young people today and the challenges to that, but also some of the things that Abdirahman, I know you're going to tell us they don't know. I'm not sure I could give you the answer to either. So I think maybe it's just not just young people, it's the population at large. But Abdirahman is everything that he's doing has been informed by a deep understanding of the challenges that are facing young people from underserved communities in particular. And Urban Rise has a wide range of really fantastic interactive and relatable programs that engage people in terms that they understand and build confidence and knowledge so they can make money work for them and not against them, because the financial system, I think, is often trying to make money work against people, not with it necessarily, not with them. But despite only being founded in 2022, the impact of Urban Rise has already been staggering. And in just 3 years, Abdirahman and his team have worked with almost 2,000 young people through workshops and events that are creating real change. So, Abdirahman, thank you so much for joining us. I've got a whole load of questions, but also anyone who is on this session, please do put questions in the chat or raise your hand and we'll try and ask them as well. So please do join me in asking questions, but I will start. Please, can you just give us a bit more detail on what Urban Rise do and why it's so important?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very, very much for the amazing introduction. So briefly, as perfectly summarized, Urban Rise is a social enterprise that teaches young adults about the importance of financial literacy and some of the habits, skill sets, and knowledge in and around there. We mainly do this through workshops and events, and are soon to launch an online resource hub that will allow us to reach many, many more young people. And we're very fortunate and blessed to have reached just under 2,000 young people in just under 3 years that we've been operating. This isn't an easy feat that's kind of been achieved, but I think over time, it's very, very important because either if you didn't learn it in school or if you didn't learn it at home, money management is a very, very important skill set.
What do you want to just give everyone a bit more of a sense of why you started Urban Rise and your experiences that led you to realize there was such a huge need for this?
So I was first born and raised in an area called in Woolwich in southeast London, and then eventually moved to East London Town Hamlets. Now both areas share similar underrepresented low economic social backgrounds, and I had 4 other siblings and 1 parent kind of raising us. In that struggle, I was very, very blessed and fortunate to have an older sibling who's slightly better than me in terms of when it comes to money management.
Oh yeah, we've slightly lost your sound.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, it's weird. It goes in and out.
Yeah, apologies. Sorry. I had an amazing older sister who, while she was going through university, she said, "Oh, I don't want to take student finance. I want to basically save up." And she took a gap year and started saving up basically for university. She was able to achieve this amazing accomplishment, but I was in year 9 at this point. And I'll be totally honest, I wasn't used to that. If you're hearing someone save 9, 10, or 18K, these are normal people doing illegal activities coming from the areas that I come from. And she became my superhero. She became the person that I was able to look up to and also learn so much from. During that journey, I then realized, my friends don't know these skills, right? So now I'm entering 6th form and I'm working, I'm putting a bit of money to the side. But my friends are asking me a question like, "What you save? What's that, bro? Like, oh, you budget? Like, how do you learn that?" And that's when I kind of realized, not everyone is blessed to, budget, save, and not everyone knows this. Why is this? And it was a little why in the back of my head, but I kind of pushed it back. I said, cool, let me just carry on. Finished 6th form and I started university. Then COVID happened. Let's not forget about that. And around COVID, I think it was like 4 or 5 months into lockdown. I was on the PS4 chat with my friends, speaking to my friends, and I said, "Yep, I'm not jumping onto that." But I was communicating with them because that's one of the ways we were communicating during lockdown. And they're like, "Why are you not jumping on?" I said, "Oh, I bought a new bed frame and a cupboard. I need to fix that." They're like, "Wait, what?" They're like, "We're all broke, bro. Like, we used to all work Primark. We don't work there no more. We're university students. Where do you get the money from?" I said, "Oh no, like, I've been saving for a little while, and then IKEA and Argos slashed their prices, so I was able to afford it." And then one of my friends, ironically, said, "Saving? Why is he talking about savings again? Like, what's this?" And I said, like, "Oh," and then another one responded, like, "Oh, he's always waffling about saving. Like, he always tells us to save and stuff." And then that's when I still realized, I said, damn, like, maybe I'm telling my friends X, Y, Z, but I'm not. Why is it still a massive issue? Why is it still a problem? As I went back to university for my second year, started doing a lot more research and finding out, like, why isn't financial education taught in schools? Why weren't we taught these skills? Then I came to find out in 2015, financial education was put onto the curriculum. It was put on the PSHE, in a little bullet point there somewhere. And I realized I was in year 9. I was in year 9, year 10 in 2015. I could have learned so much. And so could have my friends. Why weren't we taught this important skill? Carried on my journey in terms of me understanding, in terms of, like, cool, like, who's out there, what organizations out there are doing great work. I came across, many different charities, and I even went to go work for them for a little while to go upskill my own financial education, but also come back and teach my friends and family. But the problem still persisted. The problem was still there. A lot of people were still asking me about financial education questions, financial literacy questions. And then I said, okay, went to my university, entered the business competition, was very fortunate to win £500, and I put on my first event for the community. At this point, I did not think I was going to have a business, but I just put on one event for my community, and 54 people turned up. 39 of those people were between the age of 18 and 25. That pushed me to think, okay, this is needed, and my community needs me, and that was the born of Urban Rise.
Sorry, I've got lots more questions to go, but we just had a couple of, there's still a bit of an issue with the sound. Could you maybe...
Okay, let me...
different speaker or different headphones or something?
Let me try this. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds great. That's right. So I don't think these things happen. But just really quickly, when you say you did an event and 54 people turned out, what was the event?
So the event was basically just for me to kind of, like, go to the community and say, like, okay, I've heard there's an issue amongst, like, people I know when it comes to education. I'm basically going to put on an event where we get to speak about money, why is money such a taboo topic, and it was just kind of like a more of an open forum event that I kind of put on. There wasn't going to be like a follow-up after, just an event that was put on because I was able to win this £500 from the business competition.
Yeah.
And that £500 went into the event. Now, I thought £500 would go a very long way, and how many to be one or two events, but £500 was gone in just one event when it comes to the event space and some of the refreshments I got for the people. But yeah, after I realized that so many young people want to speak about money, and that was like, me opening a space for them and holding a space for them, a lot of people were interested in it, and, like, I was kind of shocked and blown away by it.
Yeah. Why do you think that so many young people are not, they don't have the skills and they're not getting the education that they need to succeed around financial literacy?
I need to take it back. There was a study done by Cambridge. By the age of 7, your money habits start to be formed. Now, if you only start interacting and talking about money from the age of 16, 18, or 21, then you have so many years to kind of unlearn. And a lot of young people are like, why am I so bad money? Why can't I save? Why am my spending habits all out of whack? Now, across that time, there are certain things that could potentially happen to allow young people to be better at it. So, for example, learning at home from either their family or their friends or elders, or potentially learning in the school system. Now, until my sister came around, I wasn't blessed to be able to learn at home or school. And there are so many young people who leave the education system, who come from similar backgrounds as me, who can't learn at home. So where are you actually meant to learn it? And that's where the issue kind of lies. If you don't learn it at home, you don't learn it at school, where are you meant to learn it? So that's where everyone's kind of born to host these type of spaces, to have these money conversations. Okay, you don't know about interest rates, we'll talk about that. You're stuck in debt, we'll talk about that. You've heard about budgeting, we don't know how to restart, but when it comes to budgeting, we'll also discuss that. Yeah.
Sorry, there was still a bit of okay, so I'm sorry, people commenting on sound, but they're saying we can still hear you if you can. Okay, I think it's okay. I think we'll keep going. Sorry for that.
So sorry, guys.
No, just but so yeah, what do you think is making money a taboo subject? And how much can we expect schools to do things about it? Because obviously they're so stretched already. What's your thought and what's your solution?
I think there are two aspects with that question. So what makes money a taboo subject, and then how can schools play a part in this? One thing I'll say about it being a taboo topic is it depends on the areas you kind of come from and the cultural background you come from. You really need to understand where it's coming from to understand why money is taboo. So it's not a one size fits all. And in terms of understanding that, you need to kind of break down those barriers and kind of meet them where it's. So, for example, if it's a young person who comes from a family in East London versus a family in West London, they might speak about money. Both might speak about money for completely different reasons. It's about hosting a space for them. And then going to the second point, how do we kind of break that down? The earlier we introduce young people to speak about money and realize stuff about money, the better. Now, there are lots of great organizations, for example, Young Enterprise, My Bank, it's called Money Ready Now, who are going to schools. I think so schools and government need to really lock in and speak to these organizations who are doing already amazing work, going to primary schools and secondary schools to give them resources, because they have expert trainers that can go into schools and deliver this without putting additional pressure on teachers. That is kind of the solution I think that should happen.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that young people have about money from your...
I think I'll take it back to an example. So I've done a workshop in a university, just like a year and a half ago-ish, and there were around 22 young individuals in the room. So I do a pre and post survey. And in that pre-survey, I saw that none of the young people in the room knew about APR and AER. And at first, if I'm being completely honest, I said, oh, maybe I misunderstood the question. So just before the section about interest rates, I'll ask the question again. I'll ask, put your hand up if you know anything about this. Not really put the hand up. And then I kind of try to give them a bit of hints. And then I finally asked them a question. Outside of student finance, who here borrows, uses a credit card, store card, and I gave them multiple options. Every single person put their hand up. And then one person said, how would we survive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's facts. Of course, man. Everyone's like giggling and laughing. Yeah, we wouldn't survive without this. And that was a moment I realized that there was 22 young people in that space, in that workshop, who were all interacting with different products.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that they have to pay back more than what they were taking. Now, granted, some of them were student overdrafts and they'll have, I guess, a certain period of time to kind of pay them back. But at that point, we had a 20-minute section on interest rates. I had a couple of fun interactive activities to do. I scrapped it all. I made everyone back out their phones, bring out their phones, and we actually live went through everyone's different perspectives and said, cool, this is what interests are, this is what APR is, this is what AER is. And yeah, it was very strong and interesting time at Urban Rise, because at the end of that workshop, I felt very emotional because of the fact that like a lot of people were shocked. I think 2 individuals ended up actually being overwhelmed in their emotions, started crying and being very shocked and scared, because that's the first time they kind of ever realized that the stuff they were kind of dealing with had negative impact. They essentially treated it as free money. Yeah. That's one of the comments I got. They're like, oh, I thought it was free money that I could pay back whenever I wanted to. And that's kind of the shock with that. And we're talking about people there was like 2 master students in the room. People studied economics, business, history, politics.
There were economics and business
economics students and business students in the classroom.
Yeah. I
mean, so it was a massive
I don't know what AER stands for off the top of my head, but yeah, but I'm skeptical about all. Yeah, I think maybe that's also part of the, you know that they're probably going to be taking for you for a ride, whereas if you haven't been taught that from a young age, why would you assume that? Do you give us, this is always really fun, give us an example of a young person you've worked with who like you're really proud of having supported and the changes that they've made? I
give a story about a wrap around the way. So there's a certain flow I've kind of developed that where at the end of my workshops, where I'll tell everyone, like, here's a sticky note. Can you please write down one thing you've learned about today's workshop? Then and then everyone write down one thing they've learned today. Then I'm going to be like to them, there's going to be someone in your phone book that you love. Not someone that you know, not someone that you've not hit up in ages. There's going to be someone in your phone book that you love and adore that does not know the piece of information that you've written down today. It's your job to find that person that you love who doesn't know this information and for you to tell them. And this kind of does 2 things. It makes them leave the workshop a bit energized and to pass on this information, but then also for them to kind of like start speaking about money, right? That's one of the things that we want to do with Urban Rise. Allow them to start speaking about money. Now, there was one time while I was playing football with my friends, and after football, we would basically go out to get some food to eat. And then I randomly bumped into this young individual. And with this young individual, I didn't recognize him at first, but I just started speaking to him, saying maybe he knows me around the community. I used to be a youth worker a couple of years back, so maybe he'll recognize me. And maybe this young lad has grown up drastically, right? So I started speaking to him, and he goes to me, you don't know me, but my friend came to one of your workshops, and we were speaking about crypto and this and that in our group chat, but now we're speaking about financial literacy. And that was kind of like such a surreal moment, because I've just finished football with the lads. Like, I wasn't really in work mode or anything. And it was such a beautiful experience to hear that I have not really directly been able to speak to this person in a workshop or event setting. And he was able to recognize me, and one of his friends kind of went back and he showed me his group chat, which was, I was geeked out for a little while about that. So that was a surreal moment, yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely everything that you're aiming for in action. That's so cool. That's such a great story.
Yeah.
You're mainly working at the moment in East and South East London. but I know that you've got big expansion plans and you're starting working with the universities, and like, where do you want to be in 5 years with Urban Rise?
Where would I like to be in 5 years time with Urban Rise? We've all heard about, love languages, and we've all heard about 16 personality tests. Okay. I have a quite big aim. I think it's gonna be my first time publicly saying it. I kind of have a big aim where I want to kind of develop a money personality test, an equivalent, where it will allow a young person or any person to do a quick 2-3 minute test. Maybe it might take up to 5 minutes after all my research is done, but for them basically do a test to find out where their financial literacy is at. And after they figure that out, they can get like a personalized report, such as, for example, when you do your love languages or 16 personality test, and you keep this report and you have a standpoint of where your financial literacy is at. And then you get some resources, some free resources and free guides at the back end of this. That's one of the things I want to basically be able to achieve in the next 5 years, but also have like an ambassador/school where I have a program where I teach young people, and I don't teach them to become expert financial educators, but I teach them to become expert signposters and expert in terms of them being able to speak to their friends and family in and around money, right? So in terms of like not me being able to duplicate myself into every single community, but be able to reach as many young people as possible to go through my program and improve their financial education, their own financial literacy, but also and show them ways for them to hold conversations with people, but for them to also be expert signposters when it comes to someone, for example, someone dealing with debt. Who should you go? Step Chain, Debt Advice Bureau, so on and so forth. They don't have to have all the answers themselves, but they can guide them to resources,
Where to send
organizations, that exist.
Why? And I'm going to come to some of the questions. We've got some great questions in the chat in a second, but for you, like going back to the kind of bigger picture, why is this so incredibly important? Because I know that you have really strong feelings about this for social mobility, and why is it vital that everybody understands financial literacy or is financially literate?
I think the simple reason why it's so important is because I believe that this is the number one skill that can allow someone to go from social mobility to increase their situation and better their situation, but not only themselves, but also their friends and family in and around them. A person being financially literate will impact the people in around them. There's like a saying that, if you give a man a fish, he feeds his family for a day, but if you teach a man a fish, he feeds his family for a lifetime. Okay. I believe financial literacy is one of these core skills, especially in today's society, where people are changing jobs every 2 to 3 years. There's many different investment options out there that you can exist. Pensions, a lot of young people are opting out their pensions because they don't understand the long-term benefits of a pension. There are so many different benefits and of you being financially that kind of exist, and it's a skill set that every single human being needs. It's not just a few.
Yeah.
And if you are the few that do have it, please do pass on, do share stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a powerful kind of call to action. To go to some questions in the chat that we've got. So we've got a question from someone saying they've heard that you can use debt to create profit. Debt isn't always bad. What would your response be to that?
Definitely, I think it's good. Like, as in, debt can be used in many different ways. By the way, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just a conversation we're having. So when it comes to financial education, it's about the main thing I kind of teach young people is about you need to know everything and all your options and the pros and cons. Okay. Now, if someone wants to use a credit card for to increase their credit score, then they are consciously aware of what the benefits of a credit card is, or they want to use it for rewards and so on and so forth. By all means, they know the pros and cons that come with it. However, if a young person is getting a credit card because they see it as £3,000 or free money they can use, then that's not debt that they have the correct information for, that they're kind of going into. So there's about you being aware of all the options in and around you, and taking out loans and starting a business, or taking a loan for mortgage, for example, and so on and so forth. That is how you kind of see it and how you kind of utilize it, because with the information you're provided, the least information or less information you have, that's when debt can potentially be a bad thing.
Yeah, and can escalate and get you into real
long-term issues.
Someone has asked about what advice you would give to people who are using Klarna and ClearPay so they can, or those sorts of organizations, so they can manage their debt responsibly and avoid problems.
So there's two aspects of that. So there's actually a series of content that our organization will going to be doing around buy now, pay later and the rise of it. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that I think it should be banned. Or they should, yeah, I'm of the opinion that it should be banned first and foremost. But in terms of not using it, and then also someone that's using it, there are two different perspectives, I'll say. So in terms of not using it, one thing I will say is that when it comes to a good portion of your purchases, leave it in your basket for 48 hours. And if you, at the end of those 48 hours, if you still really want it, then you should, then that considers it being a want, not a need. Because if it was a need, then you would have immediately purchased it. Okay. So if an item can sit in your basket for 48 hours, then clearly that's a want. After it being a want, if you do not have the money or the capital to go and spend that money on and buy that product, whether it be whatever it is, then at that point, you shouldn't basically be purchasing that product. And you should wait a little while longer because you just identified that's not really a necessary need. Now, when it comes to, the addictive nature of buy now, pay later and the ease of it, I feel like it's we need to really understand and tell the person is like, at that point, you need to, you're in a situation where for the next couple of weeks or next couple of months, you're committed to this payment. You need to realize you can't additionally keep going on in a cycle and purchasing other products and buy now, pay later. That you need to stop, create a budget and factor that in. Because a lot of people, what they'll do, they'll buy a product saying, oh my God, like, it's £120. I'm going to pay, X amount right now, or I'm going to pay this amount. That's okay. But then they forget to factually put that into their budget. And then the rest of the time, they're basically paying catch up. So if you are in that, they need to reset immediately and factor those future payments into your budget as soon as you can. And then
that's very wise. And at the end, I'm going to make sure that we circulate all of Urban Rise's details. So if anyone wants to come on any of your workshops, they know how to come and find them, because I think a lot of people, possibly even myself included, would quite like to come and learn from you on this. But we had a really great question from someone saying, schools and colleges talk about interest rates with young people, but students often find these lessons boring and don't take them in. What do you do differently that engages young people in these topics? And I think this will kind of play into a question that I was going to ask you as well around, what are the advantages of being a young founder and disadvantages as well? But
I'm going to answer that question first. Do you mind if you repeat your question a little bit? I might just forget it. So in terms of like what one of the main ethos that Urban Rise does in general, all of our workshops, is that we try to make it as interactive as possible. And we do this from the onset. The icebreaker that we kind of do is basically an immediate, basically everyone has to stand up and then we'll ask a question, for example, what do you think the average salary in the UK is? And you have to walk to the corner of the room that you think the correct answer is. And through that, the point of the game basically is for everyone to identify that we don't all know everything about money. Like we don't know everything about money. And then you can't just say, oh yeah, I knew that question. No, you've walked and unfortunately, you might have got the answer wrong. And as we ask basic money trivia. From the onset, it sets the tempo of the day where we are going to learn about money today. And we're going to learn about it in a very interesting way. When it comes to credit and interest rates, those are topics that you can easily, get a bit of buy-in. The topics that are slightly harder are the ones they've heard so much stuff about, budget and savings. A lot of young people don't want to necessarily learn about that, or they've heard about it so much. How do you kind of make that engaging? You need to use different tactics and different scenarios to kind of bring them to life. I love using group activities. Like, for example, budgeting. What I will do is I will basically put everyone in groups, and then I'll basically give them scenarios with finite resources, and different people have different opposing thoughts. And now amongst themselves, they're arguing if this is more important than this. And it's up to them to kind of articulate it, agree upon, and then pitch it back to the group and have their little back and forths. So that's kind of some of the tactics I use to kind of make it very interactive. But again, as I said, there are many different organizations that kind of go into schools, and they have a massive array of experts that bring these to life. And is harder when you kind of give a teacher a set of PowerPoints, and you tell a teacher who's already stressed out and already overloaded, can you go teach this topic, which they might not feel confident about. That's often when interest rates and these topics could become boring because the teacher's reading off a guy that they got sent 8 a.m. this morning while they were preparing for their classes that they have throughout the day. It's just unfair. You're setting up teachers to fail on this regard. So that's why sometimes people say, like, oh yeah, if I did learn financial education in school, it was boring. Yes, because the teachers weren't given the proper education about it.
I remember you, when we've met before, Abdirahman telling me a story about how you were running projects in like I think a youth centre or something, and the youth workers were coming up to you and saying, please can we sit in on this, because people are asking us questions and we don't know how to answer them, because so many, well, I think so few adults are actually really, really clued up about this, let alone young adults.
100%. 100%.
That rings so true, what you're saying about the teachers. They don't necessarily know the answers themselves. In terms of the advantages for you, I mean, you've sort of explained already a bit, or well, it sounds like there's a huge advantage of also the kind of peer-to-peer, you know, you're not seen as, and you and like your team are not seen as teachers, you're seen as much more people who are kind of on a level with the young people that you're teaching. Does that also, in terms of you running the organization as a younger person, does that, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages that you?
I think early doors, by the way, I'll be completely transparent. Early doors, I was very, very like conscious and shy of the fact that like, oh damn, I'm a young person, you know. Even now I'm 25 years old, but often I get called 18, 19 or 21. 21 is the biggest compliment I can get. Like that's the oldest age often people would assume I am. And I was very conscious of that. I'm like, oh damn, am I going to be taken seriously? I'll turn up to meetings and I'd be conscious of like, oh, they might not let me do the workshop because they think I'm young and I'm too young and so on and so forth. But eventually with time, I realized that was like actually, it became my USP, the relatability factor. The fact that a person can speak to me and say like, oh, like, you know, you might be your ex age or so on and so forth, you understand what they're going through, right? And I said to them like, oh, like, why didn't you, for example, if I've asked questions like, oh, why did you, you know, speak about it so freely here, but you don't want to speak about it elsewhere? They're like, well, I'm amongst peers or I'm amongst people that are my age. And oftentimes I realize like they're also speaking about me saying this. And I've heard of them. They said like, yeah, like if you were an old person that's older than my parents saying that speaking to me, I just feel like you're about to judge me. I just feel like, you know, you're about to like tell me off. But I feel like this is just a conversation. It's just a conversation amongst friends. And, you know, we all know some of our friends are smart in certain topics. And we can all easily learn from our friends. So I feel like, me being part of, you know, me being young and being part of the generation kind of really does help. Being a founder, it still has its disadvantages because a lot of times you still get doubted, you still get, you know, questioned and so on and so forth. At this point, like I know who my end users are and who I'm really trying to target. And I think with time, like that's all I want to be. That's all the people I want to be in front of and impact. There are going to be naysayers. There are going to be people who say like, oh, why are you starting a business after university? Or, you know, you're not cut out for this, or whatever other criticism that kind of has been thrown my way. It is what it is. Like I've had to learn how to kind of build a resilience up and deal with that in the best way possible.
There's a really nice question from someone saying, what's the one thing that your organization needs most at the moment?
What is the one thing the organization needs at the moment? I think, speaking openly, I think the number one thing I think my organization needs right now is understanding I think I got an email from Rob earlier today about what's going to happen in November about partnerships. I think the biggest thing that I think my organization needs right now is me as an individual. How do I learn how to create and build relationships and you know, network with different organizations, with corporates especially. I think that's the biggest thing and the next step for us in our journey. I won't be around the bush. Like I've developed a good network of people, but I've not developed a network where, you know, I can just drop an email, you know, be in touch with this person and that person. So I feel like for me, developing that relationship building and that partnership building will be the biggest aspect for me.
We might as well, just in case there's anyone on the call who might be able to help with this, what sort of networks are you looking for? Who would you like to have contact with? Like, is it sort of people in businesses who are So
the kind of context I'm looking for is like, CSR, ESG departments within corporates, hospitalities, industries with the financial industry. I think with these, some of the things I offer in terms of actual workshop for graduates and apprenticeships, lunch and learns, half days, full days, that's some of the things that we kind of offer, and we want to, get in front of as many organizations as possible to grow, but then also like collaborating on some of the activations and the events I do. For example, in just this year, June, we've done an event, and it was purely done from revenue. We had some sponsors come on board and so on and so forth, but it wasn't sponsored that way to cover the whole event holistically. But we had 140 people in Rich Mix in Shoreditch that came to learn about financial and learn about so many other things. So there are stuff like that where we can basically potentially collaborate with brands and organizations to kind of bring these events and activations to life.
Okay, everyone, that's Abdirahman's call out. If any of you are able to help from the perspective of partnerships, please do get in touch with him, or get in touch with him via us, whichever is easier. We've got some other questions. So one on, have you ever supported young people who find maths really hard and therefore have a block with anything to do around numbers?
Yes, I think actually, I think there's a misconception. One of the biggest misconceptions is like, I have to be good at maths or be happy with maths or love maths to be good with financial literacy. I want to kind of give my basis on this, right? 90% of financial literacy or financial education is all about your behaviors. So there's behaviors, there's your skill sets, and there's knowledge. Okay, so skill set is, for example, can you budget? Do you have the ability to budget? Can you save? So on and so forth, etc. Knowledge is what you know. Do you know, different techniques when it comes to debt? Do you know about interest rates? So on and so forth. Now, when it comes to knowledge, we are very blessed, and one of the important, stuff in our life, we are very blessed to live in the age of, education, right? Not education, sorry, internet, the age of internet, where you can, use Google to, ask it a question and you find out, even with AI, you find out what XYZ is. Okay. But now it's about how you research. So in terms of how you find out things, you need to know, is this trustable source and so on and so forth. Skill set, a long time you can learn certain skill sets. You can learn how to budget. But how many people do you know different budgeting techniques, but fail to month-on-month budget? Why is that? That's because their habits, their behaviors, their money personality. They don't understand who they are. They don't understand the fact they're a spender, right? Like, I'm one of the biggest spenders. I tell people, I am such a spender. I had to develop systems for me to save, and for me to, build friction and stoppage between me and my savings account. Because if I had easy access to that savings account, I'll be spending that money. Right? So behavior is a massive thing. You need to understand who you are when it comes to money. And that's one of the main things I kind of focus on. It is a numbers game. You do not need to write down what you budget and start doing mental maths or start using your hands at all. There are a lot of resources and things that you can use out there that you can slap in your numbers and it will come out for it. I know a lot of people that don't like maths, it does get a bit daunting. But for me, I'm mainly focused on the fact that you need to understand your behaviors first. Then everything else will kind of become easy.
Yeah, that's such a great message, is financial literacy has basically not really got anything to do with whether you're good at maths or not. Because I can imagine that's something that often makes people very nervous, is they think, oh, I wasn't very good at maths, so I'm never going to be able to. Whereas actually, that's such a strong message to be sharing. As an organization, how are you funded and what age groups are you targeting? Oh, you've gone very quiet for a second. Could you maybe? Oh, yeah, you're back.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The age groups are 18 to 25-year-olds from London. Can you guys hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, yes. Oh, no, sorry, you keep dropping out again.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so
oh, no, it's weird. You when you ask, we can, and then when you start talking again, it drops out.
Can you guys hear?
No.
It's dropped off.
Yeah. Someone suggested you check your mic setting, but I'm pretty sure you've probably already done that.
Oh yeah, I've done it. I've
We've had it, and also come saying amazing so work and effort, which I couldn't agree with more.
hopefully, can you guys?
Oh, it just keeps dropping in and out.
Let me reset. Just give me one. Can you guys hear me now? Is it any better?
Yes, that's better.
This is better, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the question was the age range. So yeah, we work with 18 to 25-year-olds mainly. And we do this through a wide range of workshop and events. Events are traditionally open to a wide range of people, but then every event will have its its own flavor and its own main theme. And events are typically open to 18 to 30-year-olds. So yeah, we can attract a wide range of people.
Fantastic. And in terms of how you're funded, where
so there's two ways we're kind of funded through grants, before being one of them.
Very proud to be backers of Urban Rise.
Yeah, and then the second way is revenue, in terms of charging for workshop, money that we get from events, and then also sometimes like in terms of like when it comes to programs that kind of already exist, giving consultation in terms of how they can implement financial education and financial literacy within their current programs.
So do you charge for some of your workshops? And that's a really interesting question actually.
There's a, sorry, go on.
Do some of the young people pay for them? What's your...
So one of the there's something called the grounding principles that I kind of had when I started Urban Rise, and one of them is I think I'm really strong on the fact that God, like I can't be charging for young people to be learning about money in this day and age, because the cost of living crisis that people are going through is an accessibility thing. I think I'm so massive on that. So I don't charge young people for the workshops. And also I didn't used to put in my contracts before, but I don't let also organizations pass on the cost to young people as well. So for example, if the fall was to be a youth organization, a youth club, and you guys are like, oh, Abdirahman, like we want to be there, and then we would agree something, I would have then let you guys then open up a link and on that. It happened one time and I had to reach out to them saying, oh, by the way, sorry, these are like my principles and so forth. The first organization that it ever happened with was Understanding. And then the second one, I kind of told them about it, but I think there was miscommunication and we eventually had to like delay and push it back because of that miscommunication. Eventually it still happened, but yeah, for me, it's like it has to be free for the young person, for the end user. And the reason why is that I charge organizations then to do it for young people for free. And there's a two-tier system. So with youth organizations that have direct access to young people, I would charge them a certain specific rate. It will be a lower rate. And if there are organizations who don't have direct access to young people, and they're in a different field, then I'll charge them a higher rate.
And in that situation, you're kind of training, which answers somebody's question nicely. You do train professionals who can deliver this stuff to their constituents of people. So
So one of the things that I've been very blessed to be in order with the Ford grant is the fact that one of the things I'm basically developing right now, and I started delivering as well, is the fact that I will go to a youth organization and I won't just teach the young people, but I'll also teach the youth workers. So I'll come into a youth organization and the first set of workshops and half day of training will be with the youth workers. So I'll increase their financial literacy. After I increase their financial literacy, then we'll go into the fact that I'll teach them on for them to see when a young person is going through a certain financial struggle, and then I'll make them expert signposters. And then I'll have the workshop with the young people. That way, there's a wraparound support throughout the whole year when I'm not there, for the youth workers to be able to identify some of the things the young people are going through. So I do training. There's been one organization who just wanted me to come in and train the youth workers and not for me to do a follow up with their young people, which it was okay because I think they were developing their service anyways, and they felt like at that time they didn't have enough of a cohort yet, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, so there's that offer that I also do as well.
And is it only in-person sessions or do you do online stuff as well?
So I only do online session when it comes to corporates.
Yeah.
So for example, and that's because in terms of like the coordination, for example, like if I'm doing a lunch and learn, I'll do like a virtual session. But generally speaking, majority of my workshops, especially when it comes to young people, I do it in person. Very early on, I did try to balance both. But in terms of the feedback that I was getting from young people, the impact's better in person. And yes, you're probably thinking, well, if you want to scale, virtual is probably better. I do understand that there are limitations when it comes to me not doing virtual workshops, but for me, like the impact I will have through my testing has shown the fact that in-person workshops are so much more impactful and people retaining much more information rather than me just doing virtual, which isn't as impactful. So therefore, even though I won't be able to reach as many people through the workshops I'm delivering, I'd rather keep the impact of it strong.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. That seeing people in person and just as you describe some of those activities where you're getting people moving around the room and stuff, it makes so much difference. We've had another question about, do you help people learn how to do things like write off business expenses and reduce the amount of tax they're paying? I mean, that's quite complicated tax advice. So yeah.
No, no, I think that will go into tax advice and financial advice. No, I don't. There have been like offshoot workshops I've done in terms of like speaking to people about starting a business and some of the benefits of the business in terms of as an additional workshop. And there's also like and within those workshops, I will speak about budgeting and like the fact that it's as a self-employed person it would be completely different in terms of you working. And I again expert signposting. You signpost them to the government website, you signpost them to organizations, and eventually if you get to that point, I will always recommend someone to get an accountant because not me.
We have come to the end of the time that we've allotted, and we don't want to run over too much because if people have planned to go on to do other things. But before we finish, I just want to say, well, thank you so much. This is, as ever, completely inspiring talking to you, and you clearly you know your stuff and you're so good at what you're doing. But how can we, as people on this call, how can we help you, or what's one call to action that you'd like to give to us to further your mission and support better financial literacy?
Of course, I would love you for anyone here to reach out through the floor or find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect and explore whatever we can potentially work together. But I feel like I want to kind of leave everyone with this question. Think about your younger self. Think about yourself when you were 16, 18, or 21. And think about all the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that you've accumulated across the years. What is one thing your younger self would have loved to know about money? Take a moment to think about that and go find a younger version of you, someone that you mentor maybe, your nephew, your niece, your daughter, your son, your brother, a friend that's younger than you, whoever it is, and go tell them and go have that conversation about money. And I'll say by this weekend, but I'll probably set that task for a week. So it's a self-accountable task, right? Yeah. Go ahead and go speak to someone about money.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant call to action. For me, it was, I wish I'd known more about pensions earlier. Yeah, because you think it's something that doesn't really matter, or it's such a long time away. And it's important. So important. Abdirahman, thank you very, very much indeed. We will share any particular questions or anything from the chat that's useful with you that anyone has put in there. But otherwise, please do take him up on his call to action and also connect on LinkedIn to help share the message and share the networks. And otherwise, just to everybody, thank you very much for listening in. It's been really fantastic to speak to you. Abdirahman, have a really lovely rest of the day and a great weekend.
Likewise. Thank you very much, everyone. I do apologize for the sounds. Thank you.
Absolutely, don't worry.
Thank you, guys. Bye.